Hey y'all, it's Angela here again at Chicken Coop Homestead, and the other day my husband and I were gifted a case of bananas. So we have a really good banana recipe and I was going to share that with you today. We've already made several loaves of this and taken it to my cousin that's battling an illness and my rancher friend that gave me the garden tubs, and then we've made a couple of big loaves to take to church on Sunday. But we're going to make 3 little small loaves that you could give to like a friend or something like that today. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mash some bananas. Now this is way more bananas than you need for this recipe, but I've got to make a lot of this, so I'm just going to go ahead and mash them, okay? So we're going to mash these bananas up. So what I have is I just sliced up the bananas, and I have what you would use to usually like cut in flour or into your shortening. You could do this in the mixer, but these are still pretty firm bananas, so I just want to get them mashed up pretty good. So as you can see, that made really short work of mashing up this bananas. Plus there's some small little chunks of bananas in here, which makes it great for your bread recipe. So I got this recipe from my son's adopted little grandmother lady. She's passed away years ago, but we hired her one time to babysit my son when he was a baby. And she fell in love with him. She had never had children, she was not married, and she just absolutely fell in love with him and adopted him as her little grandson. And they were inseparable. He loved her and she loved him. So we got this recipe from her. She always made it as a pear cake, and we do that as well. Make pear cakes, we made apple cakes, we made peach cakes, and now we're making banana cakes. So let me go over the recipe and I'll tell you some few variations that you can do with this recipe for those other types of cakes, okay? So this is going to take 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of whatever fruit you're going to use. Today we're using bananas. 1 stick of butter, 2 eggs, a half a teaspoon of soda, a half a teaspoon of salt. If you wanted to use pecans, you can use a cup of pecans, but we're not putting pecans in it today. And a teaspoon of vanilla. And then you're going to bake it for 350 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes, okay? Now, that's the recipe we use for the pear cake and the banana bread, except you can put the pecans in, but we're not putting the pecans in today. When we have done it with apples and peaches, we add, just to taste for our preference, we added a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon, just to kind of give it that peach and apple pie flavor. So just whatever type of seasonings you like for that you would use for an apple pie or peach pie, you could add that as well to those type of cakes, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grease and flour these baking pans. So let me get that done and I'll get back to you. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the pans greased and floured. I just used some vegetable oil, brushed that all inside the pan, and then just put a little bit of flour in there and, moved it around the pan so that it was coated. Mainly the bottom and the corners and the sides around the bottom of the pan is what you really want to be coated well. The sides and things, you can kind of use a knife and get that released when the bread is done, but it makes it very helpful for it doesn't stick to the bottom. Alright, so the next thing is we're going to get 2 cups of flour and add it to our mixing bowl. These are all our dry ingredients. So then we're also going to add 2 cups of sugar. Now that is a lot of sugar. So if you wanted to, especially with bananas, if you wanted to cut back on that sugar to like 1.5 or 1 3/4, the recipe turns out great. Either way, I've done it both ways. So, but my husband likes it a little sweet. So 2 cups of sugar it is for us. So the other dry ingredients is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we're going to do a little 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Now I'm just going to kind of mix this up so you don't just get a big old clump of salt or baking soda mixed together. And y'all, I'm not much of a baker. My husband is actually the person that likes to do the desserts in our family, but this is one of the types of things that I do like to make. All right, so we've got all this mixed up together. So the next thing we're going to do is add the bananas. So we need 2 cups of bananas. The next thing we need are 2 eggs. And of course, y'all know these are my eggs from my girls. And of course, we save those eggshells for our garden. The other thing we're going to need is a teaspoon of vanilla. And the last ingredient is 1 stick of melted butter. So let me go get a stick of melted butter. So before we add our melted butter, I'm going to just stir this up a little bit. So that's your batter. It's a pretty thick batter. Now we're going to pour it into these 3 pans. And I'm starting with just a little in each so that I get it spread out amongst the pans pretty evenly. And I'm kind of like Martha Stewart's mother. I like to get every little bit out of this bowl. Now, because it's kind of a warm day, I'm not heating up my big oven for this. I'm going to be able to cook this in my toaster oven. And it's actually a convection oven as well. So I can put all three of these little pans in there to cook at one time. And like I say, they're going to cook at 350 for 1 hour. With these smaller pans, it might be 55 minutes, 50 minutes, so just kind of keep an eye on it. You might want to set it for 50 minutes and then kind of keep an eye on it, okay? When I do it in a bigger loaf pan, it's usually right at 60 minutes. So let's get these in the oven. When they get finished cooking and cooled off, I'll show you the finished banana bread. All right, so here's our 3 loaves that we cooked. I did cook them for 50 minutes because of these are smaller loaf pans. They turned out wonderful and it smells so good. My husband came in the house and he said, "Smells awful banana-y in here." And then the other thing I wanted to show y'all is I processed all the rest of the bananas that I got. I told y'all I got a whole bunch of bananas. So I cut them up, peeled them, cut them all up, mashed them, and put them in baggies that I'm going to put in the freezer. And I put 2 cups in each baggie, so that will be the perfect amount to make a loaf of banana bread. And I got 13 packages of 2 cups of banana left over. And like I say, we've already made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 batches of banana bread, plus this one I just made, and then I've got another one in the oven. So we've made a lot of banana bread already. So that is a great way on your homestead to preserve your bananas, and then you have them ready to make banana bread for a friend, breakfast, whatever. So thanks for visiting with me, and I hope you enjoy this recipe. Bye-bye.